Good morning, everybody. Welcome to SafeDefend Live. I am with Dr. Greg Vecchi, our FBI behavioral analysis superstar and training director for the SafeDefend Academy. And Doc, people are losing their ever-loving mind. And I don't know if it's because Black Friday is next week or the holidays, but we got people protesting and causing all kinds of problems. My wife is scared to death and doesn't know what to do. Can you please help me?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's really counterintuitive on these things. We spend a lot of time, here at SafeDefend, talking about kind of your traditional target violence attackers, right? Your active killers, your active shooters, and the escape, evade, and engage, and all that stuff. But we have a different problem that you can still apply these same principles to, and the problem is what's becoming an issue now, especially what's been triggered. Actually, it's been going on for a while, but people don't pay attention to it. But it's been really triggered by all the media attention on the Israeli and Hamas war, right? And so it kind of brings to the picture here the problem with terrorists and mobs. Terrorists and mobs are different. They're a different type of attacker. These are not necessarily grievance attackers. They're more ideological, political, and things like this, right? And so when you're looking at terrorists and mobs, the time that you're probably going to be attacked or have a problem with them is basically when you're out just living your life. You're in the car, you've got your family with you, and you're going to go to a football game, or you're going to go out to dinner, or you're going to go shopping. And with the holidays coming up, schools are going to be let out for the holidays. Workers are going to have time off. And so there's going to be a lot more people out there in this environment that's a little bit different. A couple of things that's happened that I've noticed on the news recently. For example, I think around November 15th, I don't know if you heard about this, but there was a police officer, a SWAT officer in Texas who was murdered. It got a little bit of play, but when you look into that case, it was against someone who was a jihadist terrorist who had two hostages, and he had firearms, knives, body armor, and even night vision goggles. And it was an ambush attack when the SWAT officer entered. And so we're seeing more of this, and tied to that are all the people coming in that we're seeing that are on the terrorist watch list coming up for our southern border. And then if people remember the potential problem with these attacks and how terrible they can be, is looking at Reginald Denny. Many viewers or people don't think of or even know who Reginald Denny was, but back in 1992 in the LA riots, he was a construction worker that was pulled out of his truck. And so what we're seeing now, and I get my point at talking about this today, is these protests, right? So we're looking at lots of protests out there. Many of them are legal. Many of them are okay, right? They're not violent. They're peaceful. But we're seeing a lot, almost every day, of some sort of a protest where they're blocking people, they're damaging cars, they're causing threats of physical injury and sometimes death to just regular people. And so this is kind of my thought process for today, is talking to the regular people who are on holiday and who are driving their cars and who have got their family and their loved ones in the vehicle. And what happens? One of the problems is, if you look at this problem, is that most of them happen in the latter part of the day. Sometimes on purpose, because they want to inconvenience people during rush hour and things like this. And we saw that, I think even yesterday, I saw something on the news where they were blocking in San Francisco, the bridge, right?
Yep.
So one of the things to do is, study your environment, watch the news, know where you're going. And I always suggest having at least 3 alternate routes to your destination if possible. Especially if you're around home and you know the area really well. But even if you're traveling and you're out visiting family out of state, use that GPS. Plan before you get in that car, because if you do run into a blockade of people, most people don't know what to do. And the idea here, just like the the escape, evade, and engage that we talked about in the schools, the first thing is try to escape, right? And even better than that, we want to prevent it in the first place and just not be there. So that's number one, is try not to be there. The other thing that happens is that if you do run into a line of protesters, part of the thing is always remember, stay in your vehicle. The most dangerous thing you can do is get out, because now you've got tens, maybe hundreds of people that are spun up and potentially violent, and if they look at you as as an enemy, or as someone that they want to hurt or take advantage of, getting out of your vehicle is one of the worst things you can do. Okay,
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so staying in your vehicle is number one, right? The other thing about vehicles is that staying in your vehicle is important, but the two things that are really the most dangerous, or you're most vulnerable, is mounting and dismounting the vehicle. In other words, getting in and out of the vehicle. So, going towards your vehicle, in addition to doing basic safety things like parking in lighted areas and things like this that everyone knows about, is, look at the vehicle, pay attention to the vehicle as you're walking up to it. Look around, look for anything that's unusual. Look through the door, look under the vehicle from a distance, have a flashlight if necessary, look in the back seat before you get in. And once you get in, probably the two major things you should do before you do anything is don't get on your phone, get in, lock the door, start the engine, and keep your seatbelt off until you are actually in motion, right? That is a really, what's been what I found out in my training and in the classes I've taught, and in talking to people who's used this, is a really great way to just avoid an ambush attack, right? Because it's basically situational awareness. And then, of course, dismounting the vehicle is also the problem, because you're vulnerable. So the other thing maybe that you want to have in your vehicle is some sort of a go bag. And I don't mean some survivalist crazy stuff, but just a go bag, something that you might have. If you're allowed to have a weapon or carry a weapon or trained, maybe you might want to put that in there. If not, flashlight, baton, pepper spray, just like we teach it at SafeDefend, right? Medical kit, water, things like that, right? And also, keeping your valuables on your person. Because if you do have to leave the vehicle, I'm going to talk about that in a second. If you have to leave the vehicle, you don't want to have any hesitation in where's my stuff, where's my phone, where's my wallet. Keep stuff, on your person. The other thing is that when you're driving, a couple things to keep in mind is, number one, try to stay in a lane or in an area where you have an out, right? So if you get stopped and you're stuck in the center lanes and you can't go right or left or forward, you're kind of like pinned, right? And then that's an opportunity for an attack, right? So if possible, what you want to try to do is keep to the outer lane, so you've got a way to get away, and then also making sure you got enough room when you stop. A lot of people don't think about this. They run up really tight on the vehicle in front of them, and then if they have to maneuver or get away from someone coming at them with a baseball bat or whatever, they don't have anywhere to go. So keeping a little bit of space. I like to suggest, if you can see the license plate in front of you, that's a good rule of thumb to give you some space. But the other important thing to do is remember, just like when we talked about in the barricading or the evasion piece or the escape piece, right? We have to look at our environment a little bit differently. So back in the school environment, we talked about having alternate exits if you're going to try to escape a gunman, that's in the school, right? Moving away from the danger and finding exits and alternate exits, right? But what you have to do is also look at exits in a different manner. Not just a door, but a window could be an exit, right? You also are looking at things like emergency doors that are alarmed. Who cares? Go through them, right? If you're stuck in the school, right, we talked about before, using improvised weapons, things that you normally don't think about as a weapon if you don't have baton, pepper spray, things like this, like coffee cups and fire extinguishers and whatever. Well, where we're out in the environment here, in this situation, one of the things you want to keep in mind is that your safety surpasses the importance of traffic laws. So you may have to drive on a sidewalk to avoid driving over people or just to escape, right? Again, we want to avoid it if possible, okay? You can't avoid it, then we want to try to escape, okay? Now, part of that escape piece is also using your vehicle, right? Now, your vehicle is can be a tremendous protection for you. It can also serve as a weapon if necessary. One of the things to keep in mind is that if by chance you're in front of a bunch of crowd and they're starting to move into you, right? But they're not dangerous yet. I'm not saying dangerous. They're not attacking you or violent yet. Just about 5 miles an hour, just start moving forward, right? And then move away from them. And as you get away from them, speed up. Very, very simple thing. 5 miles an hour, people will get out of your way. So don't worry about that, okay? If you're going to be attacked, this is where it's very, very bad, right? So if you're attacked, you're going to know it. And that's when you just step on the gas, find an out, and drive right through their line or right, over the sidewalk or away to get out. Usually 15, 20, 25 miles per hour is really all you need, right? But at the end of the day, step on the gas. Also, a thing you got to remember is, don't be afraid of damaging your car, right? Your car is going to be damaged, but that's why you have insurance, and a car is not more important than your safety or that of your loved ones. If you have people hitting you, like with baseball bats, or they're breaking windows, that is considered a deadly force attack. And just like the active shooter or active killer in a school that breaches that threshold into the classroom, all bets are off in terms of protecting yourself. This is not where you want to be, because if they attack you, it's going to result in one of two things. One, the car being flipped over and you can't use it, which means you got to get out, or you're going to be assaulted. And so the deal is to drive away or through the attackers if possible. And so as I was kind of thinking through this, with the holidays coming up and things like this, this is a real problem that we're seeing here almost every single day. And it's one of those things that, just like when you are a teacher in a school or you are a worker in a workplace, you got to be thinking through these possibilities and actually drilling this stuff. And again, this is something that at SafeDefend we can offer. This is a little bit out of our usual discussion, but it is something that I think is important to keep in mind given the holidays and the situation in the Middle East right now.
Well, I think it's a little out of our bailiwick there, but the reality of it is it's not, because it's all about prevention. And if you're a human being and you're living in a world where there's bad people, the number one thing you can do is be aware and have a plan, right? So summarizing today, that's all we're talking about. As you go out for the holiday shopping, realize there are nefarious characters out there that want to do harm. Mob violence is a real thing, and it compounds when it's a mob. So stay away from mobs, stay away from mob violence, have a plan, drive smart and defensively, and you're going to have a great holiday, and none of this is going to happen because you have a plan, right?
Absolutely correct. It's just a reapplication of being situationally aware and avoid the problem. If you can't avoid the problem, escape the problem. If you can't escape the problem, evade the problem. And if you can't evade the problem, you got to engage the problem. So it's really
you survive.
Yep, exactly.
Well, that's a great discussion today, Doc. It's always a pleasure talking today. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We will see you next Friday. And with that, Dave and Doc, we are out of here.
Have a great weekend.